Hello, Valuethon. How is everybody doing? I am Tasselfoot filling in for Nerd Squared, doing some Gris, no out of bounds. We're going to count it down right at the start, and then I will tell you about myself and the run. So we'll give it down a countdown of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So Gris is a games as art platformer released by Nomada Studios in late 2018, published by Devolver Digital. Has some light puzzle elements to it, but definitely a game meant to be seen, meant to be just kind of casually played and enjoyed. But it is a pretty fun speedrun as well, I would like to think. So if you've never seen this game before, you are in for some feels. Definitely. Again, I am Tasselfoot. You guys can call me Tass. So basically, the story of this game, which is being told to us a little bit here at the start, is Gris's mom just passed away. It's very sad. Her mom is represented by this statue, and it's crumbling, it's breaking apart. Gris has kind of lost her voice here, and we're going to go on a journey to recover Gris's voice and to come to terms with the passing away of our mother. And so in Spanish, Gris means gray, and color is a huge aspect of this game. The game is played out in 5 parts, and those correlate to the 5 emotions of grief. They also are signified by a color. So we have denial, that is signified by white. We have anger, which is red. Bargaining, which is green. Depression, which is blue. And acceptance, which is yellow. And because we are Gris, we are gray. We haven't gotten any of those colors yet. We're kind of just feeling our way through the world. And so we start off with no abilities. And that's going to be signified here in just a few seconds when we reach the ground. That all we're going to be able to do is just very slowly walk. But we're going to quickly get our first quote-unquote power-up, and that's going to give us the ability to kind of just walk at a normal speed as well as to jump. And so the game is played in 5 parts. This first part, the white denial section of the game, is relatively quick, including this even intro cutscenes and the slow walking that's going to go on. It's about 6.5 minutes for the entirety of the this intro section. And whereas the other 4 sections are all going to be about 15 minutes each, they're all going to have kind of 2 parts to them. A part 1, we're going to get a power-up, and then they're going to have a part 2 where we get to utilize that power-up. And then there's going to be a little ending to the game as well that's about another 7 minutes at the end. And that should get us somewhere in the range of about an hour 25 for the entirety of the run. So this is the no out of bounds category. It's played on the current patch of the game. And if we were to do the true any percent, we would need to down patch and play on the 1.0 version of the game. No John Travolta in this game, unfortunately. He is way too happy with his Saturday Night Fever to fit the general mood and ambiance of this title. But, so yeah, if you wanted to do out of bounds, the only thing different is it skips 1 section of the game, saves about 2.5 minutes, but it does require a down patch, which is the reason that hardly anyone runs it, although it is kind of a fun marathon category because everyone likes the out of bounds tricks. However, the no out of bounds category is definitely more commonly run, and it is definitely the most active category for this game. And it is definitely the most accessible category as well. Do notice that, we've gotten our ability to move at a relatively normal speed here. We are also bunny hopping. It is 3% faster to be in the air than to be walking on flat ground. Probably something to do with friction, not really sure, but that is how the game works. And it's even more pronounced versus walking up or down inclines. So you want to be jumping as much as possible, especially if you're going up hills. You also want to jump into cutscenes. triggering the edge of a cutscene and slow walking into it versus jumping, you're able to clip a little bit farther into the cutscene, can save anywhere from about half a second to 2 full seconds per cutscene. What we collected there in that cutscene is a star. That's going to be kind of our gameplay objective, is to collect a whole bunch of stars throughout the game. Not having enough stars kind of gates us from progression, and so we have to collect those stars if we want to be able to build these ethereal bridges of sorts. Nope, not far enough. And then we'll be able to progress. Once again, jumping into cutscenes, and then that concept is explained to us right here. We need to build this bridge, but we need 3 stars. We only have 2, so we have to go the other way to get our 3rd star, which we can see above our head here. So we're going to climb this platform, up some stairs, hopefully have some decent movement as we traverse them. Or not. So yeah, game is definitely beautiful. There will be more color. We are currently in the white section of the game. I promise there will be reds, there will be greens, there will be blues, and there will be yellows to come. But shoutouts to Conrad Bizet, who was the art director on this game. All of the art is watercolor, which kind of adds to the vibrant nature of the color spectrum, which is hard to tell because everything is white and gray currently, but we'll get there. And we're going to finish each area by jumping into a hand. A little statue of a hand, not like a real hand. And this is going to save us 2 seconds. Bam! Fat time save. But we can see this hand here. If you pay attention, you'll notice at the end of each of these chapters, the statue and the hand is going to get more and more complete. There's going to be an arm, a body, and eventually a face, kind of signifying that, we're progressing on our journey, and we are becoming more and more whole as we put the statue of our mother back together. Notice the reds. Still some white tones in there. It's a nice blending of the colors. And every section of the game also, not only does it finish into a hand statue, it also finishes in a central hub. So it's one of the cool things of this game, casually to me. It's a little bit annoying as a speedrunner, but the entire game is just one large map. And so as we finish each area, we do have to backtrack or progress back to this central hub in order to deposit these stars up into the heavens. And so we're going to do that at the end of each of these 5 chapters. Because, it wouldn't be fair if we carried our stars over to the next area. We got to collect some new ones. And it's roughly 6 stars per area. Afterwards, it was 3 in this intro section. So now that we have finished our denial section, we're going to move on to anger. I actually jumped too fast there, which does not happen very often. It was like frame perfect early input. We got a little zip right there. You may have noticed it wasn't the screen stuttering as we went through that triangle section of background. It's one of the weird micro optimizations and weird tech of this game is that if Gris jumps through a diagonal object that she can stand on but isn't standing on, if it bisects through her neck, the game doesn't like that. Like, you probably wouldn't like it if something was bisecting your neck. So the game tries to push Gris in the downward direction of that bisection, and we call it a zip. Saves a couple frames every time we do it. There are about half a dozen places in the game that we intentionally try to do a zip. There are also like 2 places in the game where you can accidentally get a bad zip. And so, we'll try to avoid getting the bad zip. There is one place in particular where you can bad zip and wind up falling off a platform, and then it loses like 20 seconds, and that is like the baddest of zips. But we'll try not to do that. Pretty rare to have that happen, but Another stair climb. This game really likes stairs. There's a lot of things like that that are probably symbolism, but I'm not smart enough to understand what that symbolism actually is, so I'll just point it out to you, and maybe you'll understand it, and you can tell me, and then I'll become smarter with you. But like any good indie piece of media, 10 minutes into whatever it is, that's when you have to have your title card. Gris is no exception. So we are now like kind of past the intro, past the cutscene portion of the game. We'll get back to it at the end, but for the next hour or so, we're gonna have mostly gameplay. We're getting into the first half of Anger, which is known as the Sandstorm section, and it's actually a lot of fun now. When I first started running this game, and probably until like last summer or so, the Sandstorm section was basically an auto-scroller. These sandstorms are really long, and there was no way to skip a sandstorm, but one of the awesome runners in our community named Skylar, he found a way to potentially skip a sandstorm cycle, which can save either 13 or 15 seconds, depending on how well you perform the skip. So these are the sandstorms, and right now it doesn't matter. We haven't gotten to a portion of this set of the game where we can actually make progress and try to skip a cycle, but in another 2 cycles we'll be able to do that. For now, we're just kind of getting introduced to the concept that we are safe when we are in these kind of temple, pantheon type regions. But if we were outside on the ground, we would get pushed back in the sandstorm, we would get rolled up, and we would be cowering close to the ground in an attempt to weather the storm. So after we collect this first star in this larger temple here, this is where we're going to start needing to have really precise movement if we want to actually be able to skip the cycle. And it's going to play out over about 4 sandstorm cycles. And so another thing is we have momentum jumps in this game. Like that. At the end, a lot of places they have those kind of curved slides that Gris just automatically flows down. And if you jump right off the end of them, you can preserve that momentum. And it's a little bit faster than even jumping. So the hard part of the sandstorm skip is going to come in the next sandstorm cycle. It's what we call the Skylar shimmy. And we're going to try to do 3 shimmies. And basically what it is you have to be holding right when you're in a sandstorm, otherwise you instantly get rolled up and pushed backwards. But because this one is going left with us, we can take advantage of that. And we do a triple shimmy right there, and it just pushes us way further left than we otherwise would be able to go by just running or jumping normally. So we still need to keep doing some precise movement here because we're not out of the woods yet. But if we make it to the top platform before we get pushed backwards here, then we're on pace for the full cycle, the full skip, which we should be able to do. Yeah, so there we go. So we are in line to save the full 15 seconds, but we are still not out of the woods yet. We are not out of the storm yet, I should say. We gotta ride a giant rock creature. This big guy here. So, and there's going to be another sandstorm cycle as we just go through here. But the one after that, when we exit this big rock creature, it's not going to happen. Normally, playing this game casually, there will be a second sandstorm as you try to exit here. And you'll have to wait on this platform for it to subside before you can continue. But we've gotten ahead enough that if we jump out, it'll reset the timer. And there we go. No sandstorm. Pretty involved trick. A lot of pieces to it. Some precise movement, but the shimmy is really the tough trick in there. It's not too bad, but definitely takes some muscle memory and practice to get it down right. Giant rock creatures represent difficulty. Rocks are hard. Yeah, but you know what? We're about to get a pretty cool power-up. And then we're gonna show Rocks who really is hard. That is not a euphemism either. So yeah, you gotta get 2 stars to activate the power platform in each of the 4 areas. So in the first half, we are gonna be getting 2 stars. And in most of the areas, except for this one, actually, we're gonna do some traveling. We're gonna get to a central area, and then we'll collect the 2 stars in a confined area and then travel to that central platform. As opposed to this way, where we kind of journeyed and collected the stars along the way. But, so we now have an angry power-up for our angry part of the game. And this allows us to walk through sandstorms, which is pretty cool. We call this thick Gris. But that is not all, folks. Oh, no, no. There's more. Just enjoy the wonderful orchestrations of Berlinist. Yes, we can smash rocks now. So we do a little 3-2-3 action. Kind of traveling down into some depths of hell here. Allegorically speaking. And I'm trying to do that too early, too quickly. Going too fast in my speedruns and losing time. And so the second half of the red anger section of the game is very cycle-based. A lot of places for us not only to lose 6 seconds on some cycles, but also to have it snowball on us and have kind of a 1 or 2 second mistake wind up causing us to miss a 6-second cycle and then causing us to miss another 6-second cycle after that. You know, no fun at all. But we're going to start off, hopefully, here by making, not good movement there, but still making our 1 cycle windmill. Was even able to pause there for a little second to align up that windmill platform so that I could just keep holding left as I jumped across it. Because actually, if you're standing still on that windmill, it rotates slower. There is very minimal RNG in Gris, about 8 to 10 seconds total RNG throughout the entire hour and 20 minutes plus of the run. But a little rock creature named Lenny up here, he is 1 second of RNG. But we got some good Lenny. We got right side Lenny, so we did not lose a second. Thank you, Lenny, for cooperating. Ooh, there we go. Yep, and we're gonna meet Lenny's buddy George a little bit later on. So this section is pretty easy as we grab our star. We can even lose a little bit of time and not actually lose time because we're going to be cycle locked back at that pressure plate. Where did the names come from? I came up with them really early on in the speedrunning history of this game, and the community kind of adopted them from there. Since there's no text in this game, none of the characters or NPCs actually have names, but it's nice to refer to them. And so that's a little guy, and George is a big guy. They seem to fit to me. I'm a big of Mice and Men fan, and so they became Lenny and George. This section also has just kind of a lot of general platforming. I did not think I was going to make that. But there is some new tech that getting our heavy also unlocks. I'm going to try to show it off. It's frame perfect. Aye, there we go. That is called an insta-heavy right there. We can also do it off the edge of platforms as we heavy straight down. But basically, kind of like a zip It's the same basic principle that the game doesn't like it when you're trying to open Gris into a heavy in a very specific spot relative to a game object or game collision. And it doesn't know how to proceed and handle it, so it just cancels out the heavy animation. Saves half a second every time that you're able to get an insta-heavy. Excited to meet George? Well, you are going to get a chance. And while Lenny is RNG in terms of his positioning, George is not RNG. If we did everything correctly, which we should have, we got good Lenny, and we got the insta-heavy, we're going to be able to make this right here. Oh, that is so unfortunate. I can't believe that just happened right there. We just went and heavied right through George and did not break him. So, hi George. Way to not be a pal right there. So yeah, that can happen. I thought I could make that, but sometimes when I know that's not going to happen, I just land on George and then do the heavy as just a precaution, but I don't know. I thought I was going to make it. Not a big deal. Although it is going to mess up our cycles coming back here, because we're going to go to the balloon. We're going to take a balloon ride on the left side, but after we do the balloon ride, we're going to come back onto... I'm going to wait here, because I didn't want to fall all the way down, and I was well poised to fall all the way down, but if I'd hit George correctly and then done the balloon correctly, the central cycle would also line up perfectly for us, but now I have no idea how it's going to align. It is going to be a mystery, but worst case, we lose another 6 seconds, which, not the end of the world. But hopefully we can get a good, quick balloon here. So you're supposed to, you know, casually, another little zip as well, casually, you're not going to make those stairs quite as fast. The balloon's probably going to get all the way to the top, and you have to use a heavy to push the balloon back down again. But, you know, we're speedrunners, we go fast. Okay, that was actually pretty good. Hardly lost any time on the cycle there. And we've collected all of our stars. 5 of them here. And we're getting up to the Ferris wheel. We've been taught how to do the pressure plates. We did the single pressure plate, we did the double pressure plate. Now we got the mega pressure plate. We gotta get some big height if we want to have enough velocity in order to trigger that biggin. Please jump, thank you. So we have to climb up the Ferris wheel. Go all the way to the top. Half measure's not gonna cut it here. And we can do an insta-heavy off the edge here. We can try to, at least. Nope, I was early. But we got enough height, we triggered the pressure plate, and we are going to move on here to the end of Anger. Just some basic platforming in order to make it into the hand. Very embarrassing if you fall down. It has happened before. You guys just saw Celeste beforehand. Uber hard platforming. Well, we got jumps here. We got platforming. Definitely the same difficulty level as Celeste platforming here. Did not fall down. And you know what? I know that Celeste run had 48 deaths in it. You know how many deaths there are going to be in this run? 0. This is going to be a deathless run, guys. So we are into the hands. You can see there are now arms. We can see that there are changes to the color palette. We're getting into greens. Well, unless you count Mom. Mom died. That's sad. Now, you cannot die in Gris. You can't take damage either. So, traveling vertically We talked about traveling horizontally earlier. Traveling vertically, it is faster to do a heavy. However, doing a heavy winds up taking you straight down, and timing it out, while it is faster to travel straight down vertically, it winds up being actually faster not to do that, and instead to hold the horizontal direction that you're looking to go and go on the hypotenuse instead. So if Gris falls from too far of a height, she does kind of a pirouette animation that you guys just saw and recovers herself with no worse for wear. However, we are going to try to avoid that animation as much as possible. There are going to be a couple places in the run where we kind of manipulate how we fall in order to make sure that we forego that animation and save a few seconds each time. Yes. Gris is the Dark Souls of narrative-driven atmospheric platformers. Indeed. So, I mentioned before that this game covers and spans the 5 emotions of grief. Note that I use the word emotions and not stages. And so, by talking about it as emotions, it is more fluid. By referring it to 5 stages of grief, you're talking about something that's going to go from A to B to C to E to E, but that is not actually the case. And Gris does a great job of portraying that. As such, we are traveling over denial in order to get to bargaining. So we do go back and forth between... That was an insta-heavy right there. That was lovely. Between the 5 emotions of grief throughout the game. And that is part of what the backtrack and the fact that the entire game is one large map is a really good job of conveying that sense of psychology. So good on you, Namada, for doing that. Current record for this category is 124.10. This section, the first half of bargaining here, is pretty straightforward. There are a couple cycles that we're going to hit, like right here, that are a little tricky for new runners, but aren't really that difficult. So usually this section of the game, this section is 10 minutes long, it tends to be very consistent. Being more than 4 or 5 seconds off your gold time would be a very bad section for this 10-minute portion. Who was that little guy, though, in that cutscene? It was a little interesting creature. Maybe we'll run into him again. So you can even still see, in terms of the emotions, that some of the trees are red, signifying that we still have some anger going on here. We haven't fully moved on completely into bargaining, which is okay. Little momentum jumps off the end of that triangle. But these cycles are relatively easy to get down. If anything, on this one coming up here, you actually can go too fast and wind up getting ahead of the cycle on the triangle. So you do have to be worried about that right there, that if you go too fast, you fall, it still acts as a square and you fall through it. Has happened to me. No fun losing time by going too fast. Oh hey, it's our little buddy again, and he likes apples. He is off screen just because of our bunny hopping here, that we wind up going faster than he can go. So, again, you know, the characters don't have names, but we call the little guy Macaroni, and you're going to say, Tass, why do you call the little guy Macaroni? And if you're familiar with the folk song Yankee Doodle, you're going to know that Yankee Doodle stuck a feather in his cap, and he called it macaroni. So our little square buddy here has 4 feathers in his head, and I thought that was pretty gosh darn macaroni, and therefore that became his name. Unfortunately, Macaroni, despite his adorableness, is the biggest piece of RNG in the entire game. Macaroni has hard-coded RNG where every decision he makes can either be done right away, or he can just wait 1 second. And Macaroni does like 7 or 8 different actions throughout this section. Like opening trees, or eating apples. So you might say that we're bargaining with Macaroni, where we give him apples and he opens doors. But to me, it's not really bargaining. I call that bribery. Be that as it may, we now have Macaroni, who is super happy, full on apples, and is willing to help us, and also mimic us. Still adorable, in spite of possible time loss. Not too much going on here. We are going to set up a zip right out of this, right there. About the most exciting thing going on. Saving like 2 frames. See, we lost time for Macaroni. If Macaroni had done that action of transitioning up to the platform right away, he would have been basically directly above Gris's head. Instead, he was back a little bit, so I can tell that we lost time. Don't need to give him the optional apples. There are 4 optional apples. They give you an achievement. But we don't need them, because this is any percent no out of bounds. I did that way too early. It's alright. We just need one more thing from Macaroni, and then it is hasta luego. Goodbye, Macaroni. I will treasure our friendship forever. Including the extra seconds that you added to my speedrun. So this is what I was talking about. You can see that power-up platform there. We traveled for a very long period of time to get to that platform. And now we have to go both right and left to get our stars. That will wind up getting repeated in the next 2 areas of the game as well. Just some more kind of tree-based platforming here. Oh, hey! Fancy running into you again, Macaroni. And what is this? You were holding out on me, buddy. You had a star, and you made me chase you down in order to collect it. Kinda rude, honestly. But for real, we now can say our goodbyes to Macaroni. We will not be seeing him again. The left side is going to behave a little bit differently than bargaining has behaved so far. All of you are very astute. I am sure you will realize the difference right away. Will not need me to explain it to you. But I'll do it anyway. The trees are red, and they alternate based upon jumping. We also have to bargain with the trees. There we go. We have gotten our stars. And now we're going to get our second power-up of the game. Any ideas what that power-up is going to be? If you guessed double jump, you are correct. Give yourself a pat on the back. The downside to the double jump, also known as the glide, to us speedrunners, is that it is not as fast as the single jump. Being in glide state is the same speed as walking on flat ground. It is 3% slower than single jumps. So we are going to continue to single jump as much as possible. Unfortunately, we can no longer buffer our jumps inputs to properly get them on the first frame that we hit the ground, but so be it. Still faster. We're going to have two of these little sequences of red birds circling a tree coming up here. They are also RNG. We'll see if we save or lose 3 seconds. Hey, we got the good RNG. Nice. And then this is some tech right here, or just some cycle skipping. I guess it's not really tech, just really good movement. We are going to do what we call double fast trees and just not wait at all. So that was single fast trees. Not too bad to do. But getting the double, kind of tricky. But we made it. No sweat on making the double fast trees. Save 6 seconds over casual. Also, now that we have the double jump in conjunction with these red birds, we can jump cancel. Saves a little bit of time as well. If you weren't sure how the red birds work, well, you probably understand now. Red birds can also be found in pots, but you guys knew that because you saw me break one earlier, even though I couldn't use it when I broke it. That one I broke back at the central hub. We're going to wind up using it all the way at the end of the game. But we're going to get introduced to the first boss of Gris. I bet you didn't know that this game, with no damage and no death, had boss fights in it. But it does. It's a bird. It is an angry bird. The angry bird also uses wind as a mechanic. I wonder what we can do to combat that. This is the angry bird part of the run. Castle not included though, or pigs. Also, Devolver Digital is having a sale this weekend. Gris is 50% off, just in case you are interested in playing this casually or as a speedrun. Now is the time to purchase it. I know, it is very odd that this is a Devolver Digital game. Devolver is not a developer, though. Devolver is a publisher. Nomada Studios is the developer. So we do have a cool trick that's going to come up here. Saves 3 seconds if I hit it first try. Loses either 7 or 10 seconds if every time I screw it up. That was not good at all. I was in the wrong spot. So that's messed that one up. Much better positioning. There we go. There we go. That is bird blow right there. Second try. So yeah, it is very weird to think this game does not fit what Devolver usually publishes, but it is still a absolutely wonderful and beautiful game that I highly recommend. And if you're looking for a chill speedrun, something that you can just do and relax and like not have to get super stressed out about, I highly recommend Gris. We were friends with the bird for a little bit, but the bird does not like bells, and so the bird got angry again. So we have to climb this tower, a lot more stairs. A lot of stairs in this game. And at the top of the stairs, we are going to have our fight off with the bird. Notice the background now, instead of being green, is almost completely red, because the bird is angry. So we have transitioned back from bargaining into anger again. So we do have some fast tech for the bird fight. That's the bottom half. And we have a fast kill on the top half too. Just like that. Very difficult boss fight. Up there with any Dark Souls game. And even more stairs. But that is bargaining. I'm gonna finish this off into another statue of Mom's hand. Getting pretty close to complete at this point, too. Colors emanate out of our feelings, our emotions. Instead of the greens of bargaining, the reds of anger, we now have the blues of depression. And with that comes the rains falling on the plains. So we have a backtrack here in order to get to the hub and deposit our stars. And we're going to have a blind jump that we get to start it off with. Nope, I was early on the blind jump. Did not save a second and a half. So the rains, they have revealed some invisible platforms. We are back in the Forest of Bargaining. We are traveling the opposite way through it, but now with red birds and invisible water platforms. We are also going to get introduced to water itself, and water is incredibly slow to travel in, so we are going to do everything we can to avoid going in the water. We call this the Gremlins section of the run. That's not true. I just made that up right now. But it's kind of true. Do not feed Gris after midnight and do not get her wet. It's alright, the little puddles are fine. They don't slow us down. But the big stuff, we cannot avoid over here. So this, again, is Denial. Denial is now underwater, but we are traveling over it once again on our way back to the hub. I did not mean to land on that platform, and that threw off my timing. Threw off where I needed to jump out of. Little mistakes. But in a chill speedrun, that's okay. So we are in the we are in the depression section of the game, and I like to take a minute to call out some stuff right here. This is the serious time in the speedrun. I know, some people, they go through tough times. They have issues with depression, especially now that we're all stuck inside. We're all quarantined. Shit's kind of bad, but it's all still temporary. Things will get better. Things are okay. And people do love you, including myself. I love all of you guys. However, I know that that's not always enough. And so if you need to talk to someone, one, you can always talk to me. I stream all the time, and I'm happy to talk with you. Or two, if you need something a little more professional, a little more private, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is available 24/7 at 1-800-273-8255 in the United States. And there's similar numbers available to you if you're in a different country, and they're just a quick Google away. I don't have anything more profound there, but I just don't want anything bad to happen to any of you guys, so be safe. That right there is heavy dive skip. Normally you would fall into the water there and have to slowly swim back up. But you are able to break that platform right on the edge, and it saves 5 seconds. This underwater trek here down into what is going to be an ice cavern where we collect our 2 stars, it is very cycle locked. The ice cavern is on 8-second cycles, and I started back up at the 2 pools of water above. So no matter what we do, we can only gain or lose time through this 4-minute section in 8-second intervals. And we've already made too many mistakes to make what we call fastest cycle. You basically have about 1 second of leeway for the entire 4-minute section in order to make fastest cycle. Only 2 people have ever made it RTA, and I've only done it once. It is really, really hard. The normal cycle that people make, myself included, is the fast cycle. Look at the scenery here. Just like to call this out and how unbelievably beautiful it is. So we have about an 8-second window and about 8 seconds worth of mistakes that we can make in order to make fast cycle, which we are well on pace to do. We're just going to do some fast mushrooms here. Don't do drugs. I don't know, or do them safely. I'm not your mom, but I do care about you. Also some fast pulleys. So we are coming close to the end here, and we should make fast cycle. This has been relatively clean. We are likely going to be probably about 6 to 7 seconds into the cycle, so we're going to wait a while once we get there. Pretty close to making fastest cycle, but we are not going to actually make it. So this is the slow swimming. It is painfully slow. Water bad, air good. So this is the ice cavern right here. If this game is like kind of referred to as a puzzle game, but it's not really a puzzle game. If it were a puzzle game, these two rooms are the most puzzly of puzzle elements in this game. And you will see they are not particularly puzzly. The right side is more puzzly than the left side, but still, it probably wouldn't take you more than a couple minutes to figure out in your casual play. Casually, I would say Gris takes about 3.5 to 4 hours to play through. Well worth getting and experiencing. There are 28 collectibles in the game as well, and getting all of those gives an extra cutscene that has some more lore and plot to it. There are also some achievements on top of it that you can get. We're gonna skip a cycle here as well. Casually going through this this room and puzzle here probably will take you 3 cycles because you won't make this. But there are speed strats to make it. And once you kind of understand the tech of Gris and the fact that Gris is a very forgiving and lenient game, you can use that to your advantage to skip cycles. And if you remember me talking about the out of bounds versus the any percent versus this no out of bounds, this is where the runs would diverge. This next section that we're going to do, which is a really awesome section, would be completely skipped in the out of bounds any percent version of the game. But this is no out of bounds, so we are going to get to be Swimmy Girl. And personally, I think swimming, now that we just got our 3rd power-up, is super, super fun. We get to use our analog stick, we get 360 degrees of motion, and it's super fast. It is the fastest means of movement in the game at this point. So now we have 4 more stars to collect underwater. And we definitely have some speed strats in order to do that, like this. That is not the casual way of collecting that star, but it's really easy to do nonetheless. This is also kind of a puzzle. This is our as above, so below room, where if you look at the temple up above and where there are openings versus where there are walls, that is how we progress underwater as well. We're going to make our way to the other side, going clockwise around here, just swimming. So doing a 180 underwater does refresh, can I have the birds? Thank you. Does refresh your dive ability, but thankfully it is not faster to do that when moving in a straight line. Honestly, that would make this section just so incredibly frustrating in my mind. But if you're about to get out of the water, it is better to refresh your dive and then dive out of the water. So I did that coming into this section. I'm going to do it again right here. And I'll do it in some other places later on in the run as well. So I have mostly been running any percent and skipping this section of the game, so apologize if I'm slightly rusty here. I have not run this underwater section, apart from about an hour ago, in months. Nope, that's not it. There we go. That was not the best way to do the fast tower climb, but I just prefaced it with an excuse. Yep. Anyway, we have collected our 4 stars, and it is time to wake up the turtle. And so technically, that right there, that is a cutscene skip. The turtle is kind of an auto-scroller. And if you just stop inside the turtle comes down here and then waits for you. Whereas if you're able to trigger that cutscene and then dive out of it at the proper time, you save 3 seconds because the turtle never stops. We can also do a heavy straight into this cutscene that you're not supposed to be able to do. Right on the edge there, and then because falling in a heavy state is faster than free falling, it saves 2 seconds to do that. And we are coming up to what is technically the end of Depression. We enter in Mom's butt and make our way out the front. And the statue of Mom is now complete. And this is where we meet back up with the any percent part of the run as well. What is the point of this game? The point of this game is to travel through the 5 emotions of grief and come to terms with the fact that our mom has died and regain our voice. Or the point of this game is to have like a whole bunch of feels just hit you right in the gut and have a big cry session by the end. So now the statue of Mom is whole. We try to sing, we try to use our voice, but we don't have it yet. And we now get our second boss fight. So as I said, technically the Depression section of the game is over, but there is still 7 minutes before we get back to the hub. So it doesn't really feel like that section of the game is over yet. Also, it winds up being way too short if we call the end of Depression right there at the hand as well. So we all kind of think of the end of Depression being once we get back to the hub. So this is the eel, aka the water snack. It likes to bite. This is kind of an auto-scroller, but mashing does save like 6 or 7 seconds throughout the 2 sections of the boss fight. Yeah, it's a underwater nope rope. And it was 1. Now it's 2. Do I hear 3? Nope. How about 100? Also, this is my favorite music in the game. That was part 1 of the boss fight. We now have a dark section. We have a dark maze that we need to traverse. It's not really a maze, because it's a straight path with no branching offshoots whatsoever. But you do need to memorize the route through here if you want to be a fast Gris, or the fastest Gris, I should say. Now, we probably escaped the eel. I doubt that it's gonna come back. Chances are low. We went really fast right there. It probably can't catch up. Oh god. It's back. I lied. It's alright, only one more bite. This is the final bite. Whew. We avoided all of the bites. Doesn't actually do anything. If the snake bites you, you don't lose any time. But there is an achievement in the game for getting through the eel fight without getting bitten. Uh-oh. Oh god. Oh, hey, turtle! Turtle saves the day again. Turtle, you're my hero. Turtle, thank you for saving not only the day, but for saving the children. So why don't all you people donate some money? Thank you, Turtle, for saving the day. Once again, could not have done it without you. But just like with Macaroni, we have to say goodbye to Turtle, never to be seen again. Turtle is a massive amount of symbolism. I agree. Does the turtle have a name? Yes, Turtle's name is Turtle. Turtle the Turtle. None of this Dr. Seuss stuff. So this is our backtrack to the hub. You can see lots of yellows now in the game. Once again, signifying we are moving along towards acceptance. I do not have a mental health cause that I'm suggesting people donate to. I would just consider donating to the Marathon's charity of Save the Children. We have a nice little YOLO jump coming up here out of the water. Line it up. Bam. Easy peasy. Saves 1 second right there, and loses 15 if you screw it up. That is why it is our YOLO jump. More swimming sections, though. Always fun. And that area that I called out earlier as being super beautiful, we now get to swim through it. And that is how we're going to get back to the hub here. I thinned that too much. That's quite alright. So if you remember that pot that I broke, nope, that's too low. Remember that pot that I broke like 40 minutes ago? Boom! We just used it. A lot of arguments go on in the Gris speedrunning community between whether you should break the pot on the way back from green, or the way back to green, or after blue. Makes no difference whatsoever, but just changes your splits in terms of when you use that 1.5 seconds that it takes to break the pot. More stairs, now with little firefly buddies, who are fleeting. They show us the path, but they are fragile creatures. They do not like it when we heavy, and they run away. So this acceptance section of the game is a little bit different than the previous ones in that, so we do have new features. We have these yellow birds, which activate some areas on time-sensitive nature. But also, it is the only area of the game where we traverse the same section both before and after we get our power-up. And at the end, we are not going to technically return back to the central hub to deposit our stars. We will deposit our stars, but we will be a little closer to those stars when we go and do it. I didn't mention earlier, but the stars are actually RNG as well. They have programmed RNG in the pathways that they take up to their place in the heavens. Can cause up to about 3/4 of a second of time loss in each section. So we also can preserve momentum out of the water squares. And so we use that to kind of just fastly bridge the gaps and not actually land on the platforms in between those water squares. They are no longer trees. The water trees were earlier. I do not like this room. It's one of the few rooms in the game where I can, like, say that I don't like it. A lot of them I'm kind of indifferent to. A lot of them I really like. This one I don't like because of this right here. I don't like having to grab the firefly, smash the pot, and then grab another firefly that's backtracking. This part I think is cool, though. So, and now that we have little pools of water as well, we take advantage of that. Give us a little extra speed. Time to collect our 2 stars. And we're gonna go upside down as well. Leading into my favorite section of the game because of how satisfying the movement is when you do it correctly. Starting right here.
Is now a good time to interrupt?
Yeah, in like 1 second. Yep, there, okay. There you go.
Cool. We got a $20 donation from Ashley, who says, it's not terribly much, but thanks for doing this for kids everywhere. You guys rock. And that was for naming the sim that will woohoo a ghost, Nigel Thornberry. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for the donation. So this second half, the left side over to the star, is kind of boring. I don't have too much to say over here. That right side has like such great movement, going upside down and right side up and then upside down and then right side up, and it's just so creative and fun and fluid. And this section is just like platforming. Like, honestly, we did this exact same thing just about all the way back in Denial at the beginning of the game. Like, it's just very bland. So I don't have too much to say come in there, but it's still beautiful, very peaceful, serene. So we have a little bit of tech coming up out of the water here. The forgiving nature of this game, once again, we're able to trigger that light without having to flip right side up. It saves a few seconds. We've gotten both of our stars. We are about to get our final power-up of the game in Acceptance. We are going to get our voice back, guys. And Gris has a lovely voice. So much so that things come to life when she sings. Kind of like a Disney character. Like flowers, or this spider creature thing. We're gonna do a little dance while we wait. Thank you for attending our little dance. So, the hardest trick in the game is coming up at the end of this hallway. At the end of the hallway is what we call the bug room. And the bug room, done casually, is a 2-cycle room in order to get through. And it takes a whole bunch of time. Now, there's a relatively easy skip in order to do 1 cycle. And each cycle is 10 seconds. Well, 2 5-second half cycles. So it saves 10 seconds to do 1 cycle. Relatively easy. There is also a no cycle. No cycle saves an additional 22 or 23 seconds and requires 2 frame-perfect jumps. So we're going to try it. That's 1 cycle right there. Not too bad. Here's no cycle. Nope. So I jumped too late. I was 1 frame late. It has to be a coyote jump, too. Fun fact. So we've lost 10 seconds. I think that was early. No! Hey, we got it! Oh, crap. I did not think we got it. Hey, so that's no cycle. Second try. Really good. And so we only lost 10 seconds because of the overshooting it the first time. And so we avoided having to trigger the top half of the bug. I am honestly very surprised that that worked. I thought I was early. Anyway, so yeah, so that's no cycle. It's a frame-perfect coyote jump followed by a much easier frame-perfect jump after you flip over. Just because the second jump winds up being very muscle memory, whereas the first jump kind of is just throw yourself at it and pray. Bad swimming, though. More bad swimming. So the left side is, unfortunately, also similarly uninspired. This is a fun route change, though, that came about not too long ago. It loses half a second now, but it saves a second and a half later, because we have to use those same 2 flowers again at the end of this section. So no matter what, we have to open them, and it just winds up being faster. No. There we go. And so part of like the forgiving nature of this game is that Gris kind of just stops more easily at the end of platforms without falling off, like this cutscene here. So she lands really easily on the edge, and you can get a free insta-heavy as a result. but kind of uninspired, because we're going to do the exact same platform climb that we did before we got our power up, only now it's time sensitive. Only the timer is really generous, and so it's effectively the same thing. But we go left instead of right. And we're going to wind up in Flower Room. So just like Bug Room, Flower Room also has a pretty large skip where we don't have to go upside down at all, and we can skip having to open the upside down flowers. However, whereas Bug Room is a double frame perfect, incredibly hard trick, the Flower Room skip is as close to free as you can get. Just like that. Apparently the developers forgot that you could jump cancel. And all you have to do is mash. So that's a free one for you, just about, if you're gonna get into Gris speedrunning. And we are about to collect our final star. Now all we have to do is deposit them back into the heavens. A lot of purple going on here. Possibly lilac? Hopefully swimming goes a little bit better than on the right side. Don't want to bonk. If we can avoid it, no bonk. Very nice. And here is us using those flowers that we opened before. And we are going to create a tree. Possibly a tree of life. I wish there was a more fluid way to climb the tree, but it's just very awkward. The height of the squares on the tree just, like, don't line up properly. But like I said, we climb up higher, and we sing to the heavens to deposit these stars. And so, our journey through the 5 emotions of grief is complete. But we are not done yet. So this ending section here is very cutscene intensive. There's only about 2 minutes of very basic platforming, and there's going to be about 5 minutes of cutscenes, but hopefully we'll wrap things up for you guys, and we'll deliver all of the feels that I have been hyping. The bosses are back. How? That's right. The bosses were us. All along, our doubts, our fears, our insecurities, screaming at us, trying to push us backwards, trying to eat us, trying to keep us from becoming whole. As Gris falls once again, notice she's spinning just like she was doing in the very opening cinematic of the game, getting swallowed whole by our negative black feelings. But do not despair, for even though the statue of Mom that we have put back together, we have made whole, it's crumbled, it has fallen apart on us. Do not despair, for we can rebuild her. We have the technology. We have the power-ups. Except our ability to swim. We lost that one. Well, can't really fix Mom, but we can say goodbye to her. Bye, Mom. And so, we will climb up the broken pieces. And we can sing them back together. I'm gonna let you guys enjoy this almost ending cinematic. Hope everybody has had a good cry. We are able to say goodbye to Mom. We are able to move on to the next part of our life, the next chapter. Time is going to come up in about 45 seconds when the screen goes black. About 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, time. This has been Gris. I am Tasselfoot. I hope everybody enjoyed. And again, Gris is currently on sale. It is 50% off for this weekend. So if you liked it, definitely a great time to pick it up. If you're interested in speedrunning the game, it's a super chill and relaxing speedrun. Not difficult at all to get into. Highly recommend. And that is all I've got. Thank you for allowing me to step in last minute. I'm sorry that Nerd Squared wasn't able to do the run himself. And I will see everybody tomorrow for Untitled Goose Game. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of the marathon.